Things are getting spicy because Billy is having a conversation with Lewis about how much damage one's body would take in football that he would willingly accept in exchange for blank's career. Where is the line on amount of damage that you're willing to accept to your body in exchange for the career of blank?
Well, okay, so this game started yesterday, and it's not really a game. It's more like a hypothetical, because calling it a game is like in poor taste just based on what we're doing. But anyways,
it's a dangerous game.
The most dangerous. Well, football's more dangerous, but it's along those lines. So the way that the conversation happened was I was talking to Mike Fuentes in the other room, who works like in the video department, and he's the one that kind of like, he's my muse right now, I guess, right? Like he inspires me to go for it on crazy things. Yeah. So we were, but he also then I come to him with the crazy things, and then they don't get done. So he like inspires me to do them, but he never gets anything done. This Mike Fuentes. We can talk about that another day.
Put that on the list, Mike.
Anyways, so we were talking yesterday, and football is extremely dangerous, obviously, and everybody ends up with head trauma, right? But they also end up with a lot of life-changing money for people in our positions. So the question was basically, how much are you willing to accept in terms of like damage to your body moving forward in exchange for the money? Because that's what people are doing now, essentially, right? Because the more we know, the more you're kind of accepting going into football. I'm going to get head trauma. I'm going to have body damage, but I'm also going to get millions of dollars. So we were trying to figure out the line. And the person that we settled on yesterday was a very high line that I don't know that we're comfortable with, was Wes Welker. $40 million career earnings, but also, he took hits.
Oh, my God. So you are saying Wes Welker, if you throw the name Wes Welker at me, I say no amount of money. Okay, but I know and I understand that I'm skewing.
You've made more than him, too.
I'm
probably
skewing this game, right?
You have money.
Well, but Stugotz, you have money, and you are willing to accept panic attacks.
40 million.
You are willing to accept panic attacks, the Butch Davis's panic attacks in exchange for his salary. And I think after talking to Jay Glazer a bit, you might want to rework your negotiations on that. But Wes Welker, man, I don't want to be Wes Welker in
Mike
my
Fuentes
40s
said no
or
also.
50s.
Mike, that seems like the line. Like no one wants to kind of get to that.
I'll be Wes Welker tomorrow. Tomorrow. Why? For $40 million, that changes the life of my family's family?
Should be noted that Wes Welker is presently in his 40s and coaching the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Doing fine.
I'd be worried about him given the number of concussions that he grandfathered in before we knew much of anything about concussions.
See, it wasn't a fun game. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like a hypothetical. Now I feel like the mood was brought down. Like it wasn't like a, hey.
I thought we were going to be able to pick our own player of who we wanted.
You can.
Yeah.
You came in with Wes Welker, and that's very strong because he makes us uncomfortable because he's tiny, and we know how much he got hit in the head, and he was 100 receptions a season and is the symbol for disposable football player because the Patriots end up replacing him with a bunch of other guys, and then he's on Twitter pointing out to others, hey, they denied my insurance claim. Look how difficult they make it to get your health benefits and your money, even if you're Wes Welker.
Iggy Pop for me.
You're going outside of sports.
He's 75 years old.
Well, Keith Richards, right?
Yeah, but
take it.
Iggy Pop's body is probably in worse shape than Keith Richards. He was once quoted as saying, "My skeleton is a weak area."
Put it on the poll at LeBatardShow. Whose body is in more disrepair, Wes Welker, Iggy Pop, or Keith Richards?
Have you watched Iggy Pop? I think he has like hip dysplasia. If you watch him walk, it's kind of like painful, but the guy's still out there rocking.
Shirtless, and the body is wearing, like all of those wrinkles are all over that body. You can see all of the damage done to that body.
Leathery. He moved to Miami, I think, like 25 years ago. He's always around, just reading a book and talking to parrots.
There's always a guy on the beach walking around that looks like Iggy Pop too, like very leathery, very ripped for like an 85-year-old guy.
Iggy Pop.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that the guy that walks out of the garage with two parrots on his arm?
That is
that's
Iggy
the
Pop.
other guy.
That is actually Iggy Pop.
Huh.
It's the guy in the Speedo.
There's
all Iggy Pop.
There's a guy. You might not know this. I didn't know this. I was told this by the people now that work with us across the hall. You know, there's a guy, Dan, that for years, like once a week, just comes in a G-string and does a lap around the pool downstairs at the Clevelander. Like he buys like a beer so that he's allowed to use the pool, and he like once a week just comes in a G-string and just starts doing laps for exercise. I had no idea because we're in here the whole time, but they've told us. Did you know this is going on?
I've seen that guy once. I didn't know that was like a weekly thing.
Every week he's here. Every week.
He's a heavy set bald fellow, and he's in a G-string. Oh, well, I see that guy all the time, too.
I saw the guy that looks like
What?
Bruce Boudreau, the former Caps head coach.
I don't know what that guy looks like.
Google Bruce Boudreau.
There are a few people around here in this general
What a random
vicinity of this neighborhood who are way too comfortable in a Speedo.
I'm jealous.
Yes, that's the guy. That's the guy.
I told
Mike.
you it was
There
Bruce
are many.
Boudreau.
Right, wait a minute.
I gotta see this guy.
No, you cannot. You're looking it up. You just looked up Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
like
doing it right now.
Yeah, it looks exactly
Yeah.
like the guy in the pool with the G-string.
I want a Google image spike right
Oh
now
my
as
God.
people look up what this person looks like.
Are you guys not envious of that level of comfort though? I wish I had it. Right?
You wish you had the comfort. That should be a grid of death punishment.
Well,
Have to do a
come on,
lap
that's
around.
like HR disaster if I've ever heard one.
Have to do a lap around the pool in a Speedo is a good grid
No,
of
Dan,
death
G-string.
punishment. Oh,
It's a G-string.
G-string. That's a
We'll
fine.
call
by
it the
way,
Bruce
yeah.
Boudreau.
You owe $5 from yesterday.
No,
from
he
your-
owes 10.
Yeah,
I put
he
$5
put
right
$5
there.
So you owe
10.
5 more.
You owe 5 from
Yeah,
yesterday.
you owe 10 total.
What?
You went into
Yeah.
you twice. You,
Okay, $2 for you. I mean,
It's not G-string and Speedo is
Joe
not a
Maddon
fine
just
to
got
me.
here, it seems.
Wow, your hair, Greg Cote, does look very Joe Madden-ish today.
Well, the spectacles
glasses,
too. Yeah,
yeah.
what's going on
He looks
there?
smarter.
You he feels smarter, he said, as his microphone's not on.
It isn't?
No, it is now.
It's on now.
Okay.
You do look a lot like Joe Maddon. Go ahead and take the picture of him, somebody, so that people can see just the former Cubs and Angels manager, how it is that he's walked in the room. Feel free to put on your headset,
Yeah,
guy who
headphones are-
looks smarter, so that you can hear the things that we are saying. as you-
Possibly future Marlins manager too, if you read what's going on in the rumors.
Very
It's
exciting.
not going to be him though.
Jeremy, I'm glad that we have Jeremy today. Congratulations, Jeremy. You will be seeing him on your Heat broadcasts as well during this season as Jeremy continues to climb up the Valley and local media ranks. You love the Marlins. You cover the Marlins very well. Who's their manager going to be, and what hope do they have? Because it feels to me like they didn't get enough in any of those trades for people that should show by now. When the Astros tanked and got prospects, it started showing that the Astros were rewarded for tanking. Jeter has fled town, and I don't know if he did his job or not.
Yeah, super unfortunate because it doesn't seem like they got much other than Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen, who turned into Jazz Chisholm Jr., but that was all from one trade. The 3 trades, and you mentioned it, I believe it was on yesterday's show, Stanton, Yelich, and Real Muto. Sixto Sanchez turned out to be nothing. I don't think we'll ever see him again. He's just been so injured. So
I'd
they
take
got
alert.
nothing from those trades.
You're
and
declaring that right now, huh? On Sixto?
I don't think we're
gonna
ever
write that
seeing
down.
Sixto again. That
Yeah, write it
shoulder
down. We'll
shoulder
never see
injuries
Sixto
scare me.
again, okay.
I'd be great if we saw Sixto again.
Great name, though.
Yep.
One of the greatest. And hey, look, won a playoff game as a Marlin. That's kind of cool. All right. In Wrigley Field, that happened.
Yes,
If we all
yep.
forget about it during the pandemic, it was kind of insane that happened. But
It's a sad day that he's done. I mean,
well, you know,
according to you.
the end of a career, I guess,
Yep.
based off of this
Jeez.
statement right here. But there will be a new manager in place, but I don't think no matter who it is right now with where the roster is that there's that much hope unless there's a lot of changes made to the style in which they play baseball, like just straightforward.
They don't hit enough home runs. I mean, they had Aguilar was their leading hitter in home runs, and he was like done in very early, he was done early in the season, and still ended up hitting more homers than anybody.
But on the same track, like they might as well just embrace that. Like to me, if you're going to be one of these teams that is not one of the haves, right? There's haves and have-nots in baseball, and that gap has increased exponentially over the last few years, where teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers are spending 5 times the payroll of all of the rest of the teams. Those teams should not be trying to hit home runs with the rest of these teams that have 5 home run hitters or better. You're not going to do it with Soler and Garcia. You might as well embrace small ball. Do what the Cleveland Guardians are doing. We
Yes.
talked about it yesterday.
Love that team.
Station to station, playing defense, stealing bases,
full of it.
cyclically go back.
Love it.
Might as well do
Oh.
it.
And the rules are going to kind of push that timeline a little bit forward, right? Things are going to get accelerated just because of the rules of the game.
Absolutely.
Greg, the haircut. I mean, I kind of dig the look. I mean, you look like Buddy Holly, but now.
Harry Carey, I've heard as well, which is
Also, but now.
but now.
Excellent, Tony. Excellent limited fake Harry Carey.
We should bring back Jack McKeon now.
Why?
Hearing
Trader
Jeremy
Jack.
talk. Yeah,
Yes.
small ball.
Trader Jack.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be so great. You need a placeholder manager right now because next year's not going to be the year, right? I mean, Jack, let's be
How
real.
old is he now? How
I
old
mean,
is
he's
Jack
old enough
McKeon?
that year-to-year contracts.
He's got
I
to
would
be in his
think.
80s.
My God.
He's got to be. No, he's got to be damn close
91
to
years old.
90. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bring him
Whoa.
back.
Exactly
Bring him
right.
back.
Yeah.
Bring him back, Jack.
Yeah.
There you go.
What's
well,
happening?
Let me say this. The fact that Cleveland is a win away from the Final Four with a very low payroll, unfortunately, right, this enables teams like the Marlins to say, we don't have to spend $200 million. We can do it on the cheap, but they can't.
They did that
aren't.
with the Astros too. Tanking is rewarded. Tanking is rewarded. Look what happened with the Astros, and they didn't tank well enough.
They also thought they could be the Rays, right? Like
Right.
it's the same sort of thing, winning in the
Yes.
margins, and some teams do it better than others. The Marlins have not done it well at all through these first 5 years.
Right.
Like, it
And,
just
and now
hasn't
they're
worked.
in a division with 3 playoff teams.
If you look at the MLB payrolls, you have the Athletics at the bottom. The Orioles at 29th had a good year. The Guardians are actually below the Miami Marlins. They're at 28th in MLB. The Marlins were slotted at 26 behind the Tampa Bay Rays at 25.
So it can be done.
Again, though, you're pointing to the outliers and saying, "Let's do it." How many years have you heard around here with the Dolphins?
Dan, those are 3 really good teams in the from 25 on.
How often have you heard that you can win a championship with Trent Dilfer as your quarterback because the Ravens did it? I've been hearing that argument for the Dolphins for 20 years. Those are outliers. You can point to 1 or 2 who do it. It's not probable. And if it's going to be probable, you got to be smarter than everybody. And they're not smarter than everybody. Like, you can't keep pointing to the one team that does it well and say, oh, it's possible, when that one team is a miracle. Like, the Astros have been good for years. They tanked correctly. They lost 120 games. They were a good deal worse than the Marlins. They did it on purpose, and they hit on their prospects. The Marlins are not hitting on their prospects. I was hearing things about their minor leagues. They don't have major league ready baseball players. And where is the hope for you as somebody, Billy, who spent the weekend watching, hating as a sports fan? You hate the Marlins, you love the Marlins. Where are you on hope for the Marlins?
I mean, when the season starts, I'll be hopeful, and then by the end of April, depending on how they do, which historically hasn't been good, I'll probably have lost some hope. By June, my hope will be gone. That's how it works. Yeah, it's ups and downs until June, and by June, it's like, this is who we are. By the way, Daniel, did you see what happened yesterday?
Billy's onto something.
The fix was in last night, and we
Yep.
can figure out exactly what the fix was. All I know is Garrett Cole is now available to pitch for the Yanks tonight. All I know is that they couldn't play a baseball game last night, but there was a playoff soccer game that was played in the exact same city last night. I saw some tweets where there was a tarp out on the field, and there was very little sprinkles going on.
Yep.
I don't know what was going on
Little
there.
extra day of rest.
Something's going on there. Now all of a sudden Nestor Cortez is going to be pitching. Is Bieber going to be pitching for the Guardians? What's going on there?
Yeah, but
Something's
Bieber's dreadful
going on.
against the Yankees, and they have to pitch him. So you're right, Billy.
Something is up.
Yep.
Dan.
TV pulling the strings.
Well, you said a soccer game was played last night. Mike, that's Gonzalo Higuain's last soccer game. I saw early in the game somehow
Great career.
twice they almost had 2 own goals inside of 10 seconds of each other, where they hit the crossbar and they hit the upright within 10 seconds of each other.
Last night's game at Citi Field, and the New York City FC had to play in Citi Field because their normal home of Yankee Stadium was occupied. So,
Well, it wasn't.
It really
though.
wasn't.
Right.
It really wasn't.
They could have
Stones throw away. I mean,
so there was
yeah.
talk that the game would get moved to Red Bull Arena, which is in New Jersey, but New York City FC did not want to play in their rival stadium and give them a playoff game, so they petitioned the league to move the game to Citi Field. And even by MLS having to play in baseball diamond standards, this was a laughable pitch. Now, you do have some wiggle room in soccer. Many people don't know this, that even in the highest levels of club soccer, you can have different size pitches. It's not a uniform thing. This was an incredibly narrow pitch. Unfortunately for Inter Miami, I don't know if the pitch was playing games with them, the sight lines, but they looked somehow in a more condensed pitch. they were all out of sorts, totally caught out of position several times over. They almost had a goal for Gonzalo Higuain, who I think at this age, you got to give him the back shoulder sleeve. You just have to. But they called that offsides, and then the team totally unraveled in the second half. A sad note for Gonzalo Higuain's great career because it ended on Citi Field. Not very illustrious.
Not the way you want to end it.
For one of the more prolific goal scorers of our generation. But I think there was a lot of great stuff to build on for Inter Miami. That place actually became a home field advantage for them. They turned things around when it looked like they were going to pack it in and it was just going to be another embarrassment. To be able to recover from the penalties of the worst signing in Blas Matuidi in MLS history because they levied fines, lost a DP slot. To make it to the MLS playoffs was an achievement. Now they've made it twice. Granted, the first year that they were there was an expanded playoff, so it was a little funky. But there's something to build on here, an excitement and a fan base that is being cultivated. It would have been nice to come away with that dub, but they went at the defending champions, and you don't come into Citi Field expecting a W in the MLS playoffs.
Not usual to lose 3-0 and get your hope extinguished and immediately land on perspective. That's not.
Well, they changed the math this season in terms of the expectations because come May, this was looking like a bottom of the table team. It was really embarrassing. They were playing some horrible soccer, and they put it together. Credit to Phil Neville for rallying the troops. Credit to Gonzalo Higuain, who once was quoted saying, "I thought I could walk into this league with a cigarette in my mouth." He said that, and his body was so out of shape. He went in like the legend goes that he strolled into Neville's office, told him that he was planning to retire, and Neville said, "All right, so what legacy do you want to leave behind? Do you want to be this guy that's being booed by his home fans, or do you want to turn things around?" Gonzalo Higuain then lost like 30 pounds and tapped into some prime goal scoring form, and in this short history for this club became head and shoulders the greatest player to ever don that shirt.
And his legacy is that he single-handedly carried this team to the playoffs. He scored 14 goals in his last 16 regular season matches, which is an incredible run. I mean, the team was on his back, and what a way to go out.
He was actually benched by Leon Campana, which was a great signing. He might, I think the injury probably dashes his Ecuadorian World Cup hopes, but Higuain was benched by this team. They turned to him after an injury into Campana, and he became the best player on the roster. For Inter Miami going forward, they have all this money to play with. They're always going to be linked to the big stars. I've done some reporting. I know that there's some Ronaldo stuff out there. If you super followed me, you knew this already, but that's a bunch of hogwash. That's not going to happen.
Wow.
And if you're trying to fantasy book a world where Ronaldo and Messi play together on the same roster, that is also definitely not going to happen. But there might be a player on this roster that makes a World Cup. It's expected that DeAndre Yedlin from Inter Miami will travel with the men's national team to Qatar. So
someone, this guy scored how many goals?
14 goals in 16 games.
And they benched him?
Before that.
Well, no, you could argue that the coach sparked that because he went on that
fire
run
bill
after being reintroduced to the lineup.
Coach should be out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, from going to the games, that was as good and wholesome a season ticket experience as I've ever had because it was totally unexpected. The teams had dramatic comebacks, and it really embodied like this cardiac kid thing that we've seen around town with some teams that really connect. Granted, it's MLS soccer. We've barely talked about it. Look what it's taken for us to talk about it now. Their season is over. But I do think that there are the seeds of something, and if they can tap into that vibrancy that we see in Fort Lauderdale, get a star in that shirt, and have a stadium that Miami can really make its own, I think that there is something special here, and that's why David Beckham decided to pick Miami as his expansion. One thing that bothered me, though, because
that's not why David Beckham chose to pick Miami. The talks was that it was going to be this juggernaut team, landing all these Ronaldos and Messis and all these things, and it hasn't been that so far.
It hasn't been that. It was also supposed to be in Miami, and it's certainly not that. Watching that playoff game, though, I did get pissed at Don Garber because I thought the whole deal with Inter Miami having to enter the league was they needed a soccer-specific stadium. No team unless they get a soccer-specific stadium. And they had to totally turn Jurassic Park at Lockhart Stadium into a stadium in 6 months. NY City FC, they're playing at Yankee Stadium.
Why doesn't why? Let me ask you something because I don't know. Why wouldn't MLS step in and be like, no, there's a soccer stadium you can play at. You're going to play there instead of a baseball stadium at Citi Field that's not set up for this game.
Jorge Mas was really pissed off about this. He actually took to Twitter and he said something along the lines of no, it's not happening. And then it ended up happening. Like, I don't know if that's champion's advantage.
All bluster, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy is just a blow. Like, I've seen
when he says it's not happening, it's happening.
I've seen so many Cuban men like him in Miami my entire life they're the guy at the cookout who just says things and they don't actually happen. He just happens to own a team.
I think you have to give Jorge Massa a little bit of credit here because, I mean, they played the political game. It appears as though that stadium is indeed happening. If the Messi links are real, which I believe that they are, then they deliver on their promise to get you a star. Hard to find a bigger star in the history of the game than Lionel Messi. And they made it to the playoffs. They actually survived. I don't know if you know the history behind how they got penalized by MLS for that Matuidi signing, but one of their co-owners narked on them. Clare, the guy from Sprint, turned them in. Yeah, he turned them in. Like, there was infighting, so they ended up getting
That's exceptionally Miami right there.
Yeah, they ended up getting a greater ownership percentage, and we'll see how that's used with the Messi stuff. I don't know. MLS is always funky with their cap situation. Miami's already been pinched once. But I think Inter Miami is well-positioned here, and that's not something that I ever dreamt would come out of my mouth back in May.
Greg Cote, you've been covering soccer in this market since the Fort Lauderdale Strikers.
Yes.
Billy and Stugotz are here to fire managers. When they talk about lit fires, I would say that Higuain's fire was unlit because he said he could play with a cigarette in his mouth, and eventually he ends up losing the 30 pounds, scoring a bunch of goals, and creating enthusiasm that doesn't actually transfer in our market very often from one season to the next. The Marlins making the playoffs didn't. We need sustained
for sure
winning around here before we start gathering momentum as customers and fan base.
Well, part of what Inter Miami is doing, they've spent 3+ years now trafficking in Messi rumors, trafficking in the speculation and the hope that the greatest player on earth is going to be in this uniform someday. Maybe it's going to happen, and as you say, there are certainly indications that it will in a couple of years. But meantime, a lot of the hope, a lot of the optimism around this franchise is the trafficking in Messi.
Well, let's talk about the headlining story that's always going to get aggregated. It's Messi. I know there was a really aggressive timeline set for Messi. There was a Winter World Cup, and I do believe that Messi's going to evaluate everything at the conclusion of this World Cup. Fortunately for Inter Miami fans that were hoping to see Messi sooner rather than later, Messi had a bounce-back season in a big way right now. He's drawing interest from his current club, PSG. They want to extend his deal. Barcelona is always going to do something shady. They want to get him back in that shirt.
What is his deal? Because his deal is enormous, right? It's one of the biggest in all of sports.
In terms of player wages, but he negotiated kind of freedom for himself at PSG. And if you've paid attention to Barca's transfer strategy, which someone should look into that, to borrow a phrase from Stugotz, it kind of sets things up for him to return to Barcelona kind of on the cheap. But there's been reports out there of ownership stakes with Inter Miami. Does he want to come here at the very end of his career, or does he want to still be good enough to actually put on a show and dominate MLS?
How old is he, though? How real is that? I've been hearing that for 3 years.
I mean, I know it to be very real. I have very good sources over at Inter Miami. They made roster transactions this year. The Pozuelo transaction trade with Toronto actually helped turn the fortunes around. Good on the front office, but that was kind of done with Lionel Messi in mind. They're actually operating as if this is a real thing, and Lionel Messi's 35 years old.
And if they get him at 38, good for them. I don't want to hear about he's over the hill. Of course he's going to be over the hill. He's going to be past his prime, but Messi at 38 is going to electrify this franchise.
It will, but I don't think that they want to see him at 38. I think prior to Messi putting on this display at PSG and having this bounce back year, we were looking at Messi this summer, and I'm not ruling that out whatsoever. I honestly have no idea. I do have a very strong indication that Messi is coming to Inter Miami, that people in MLS and with Inter Miami specifically think that this is happening. But I don't know how shady Barca is going to operate behind the scenes to try to get him back in that shirt for one last ride.
I have an idea to give this organization a jolt.
I love it.
Giselle should buy the team.
Yep.
She owns a football team in Tom City before Tom owns a football team in Tom City. That would give this organization. I'd go watch a game.
I would too.
How about that?
But is City City would be Miami in this hypothetical, and
you would not
Miami
watch
play
a
close
game.
to Boca.
Totally right.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
Wofford still got seats.
It would be a good jolt of energy. Mix things
it
up
would.
a little bit.
Yep.
Stugotz.
She
Have
surrounds
some
herself.
interest.
She surrounds herself with winners. Dan, how many Super Bowls did Tom win before and after Giselle?
Yep.
Can I ask you that?
Yep.
Stugotz
We're
will
waiting.
not go to a game. He's not going to go to a soccer game. I don't know why he would say that.
I'll go when Giselle owns the team.
You won't
That's
go.
fair. Have it.
You
No,
won't.
that's
We'll see.
You
I mean,
won't go.
on the
For an
record.
owner, they have David Beckham as one of the owners.
No.
All right. Well, that's. I wish that we could put Stugotz on a stand and have a lawyer try to deal with that as the argument. See what you can do with that when he just hits you with a plume of nonsense.
The stenographer may be going, how do you spell that?
Amin is here, and the Heat are about to start their season as well. I don't want to start with the Heat, though. I mean, what are the Lakers going to be? Is there any circumstance in which the entire LeBron experience is not over as a legitimate contender? And are they going to get any improvement off of last year when a flawed and old team just broke down entirely? How'd they get better?
Well, they addressed a little bit of that, Dan. They recognized, Darvin Ham told me personally. That's right, yeah.
Hold on a second. Hold on a
Wait
second.
for it.
Darvin Ham told you
Yep.
personally.
Ham radio.
That his evaluation of the team was they're good players, but they're just old. And this is a young man's game, and you need to surround LeBron with young guys who could get up and down the floor. And that's what they did. If you look at their roster, they've overturned it dramatically. I think they have somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 brand new faces in there, and it does skew young. I don't think personally the team is good enough to compete. Forget about a championship. I think this is a play-in caliber team. So my thought process is that there needs to be more changes for this team to be a contending team. Now, here's the thing. The Lakers, at the end of the season, have like 3 guys under contract. LeBron, Anthony Davis, and I want to say like Max Christie or someone like that. Yeah. So they've got incredible flexibility. So any deal they do now could jeopardize that future flexibility. So they've kind of tried to have to balance being realistic about this season versus preserving the hope of being able to put together something meaningful a year from now.
Were you surprised that LeBron re-signed there and didn't keep his options open?
No. I think obviously there are a bunch of reasons off the court that are very important to LeBron to be in L.A., not the least of which is to continue to shepherd his son's career, both of his sons' high school careers. And I think also, obviously, the Spring Hill stuff and all the movie making and all that, being in L.A. is very advantageous. And the reality is, no matter how bleak it looks, again, LeBron plus Anthony Davis, if you put the right supporting cast around them, this is a championship team. I just don't think they have the right supporting cast right now.
Is Bronny good, or are they just humoring LeBron, like with the Nike NIL deals and stuff like that? Is that just like, let's do a solid for LeBron?
Kids, period. How good are they?
Because he wants
prospects?
to play. He wants to play with them, but like, is that realistic, or is that just like they're going to because who their dad is?
The answer is yes, Billy, to all of that, because he's a top 50 player. Bronny is. And everyone says that Bryce is, first of all, Bryce is already going to be a lot bigger than Bronny.
Yeah, where did that come from? Because Bryce didn't really show any interest in playing, and all of a sudden he's out there on the practice court and he looks like a player.
I blame Space Jam 2. They had all you guys believe that Bryce was just a nerd playing video games while Bronny was.
And he put that out there. He was putting that
So
out
it pissed
there.
him off? Is that what you're saying?
Spoiler alert: I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, Space Jam 2?
Yeah, I started.
Wait till Don Cheadle shows up.
He's there.
Okay.
Things have gotten crazy with Don Cheadle.
How long is it going to take you to watch this? Because you hated it before it came on. You hated that he was trying it. You hated the unseen. You hated it. Then you saw some of it and haven't gotten to the rest of it.
Well, yeah, no, I started watching it, but then something else came up, and then I haven't finished it. I need to get back to it, the thing is. And I have to do it before it disappears, because that's what happens is I start movies and then they disappear from where they're streaming, and then I never finish them. So I'll get back to it. I'm like 28 to 29 minutes in right now.
This one won't disappear. HBO Max forever.
Who puts
they
a
never get
bookmark
rid
in
of
a movie?
content.
Tony, you have consistently seen things in Billy that you identify loudly, and your relationship with Billy is fascinating and confusing to me. So you're just saying Billy is a hater. Period.
Billy Hater, yeah. All he does is talk about things he hates. He hates the Yankees, hates these people. I hate the movie, but I'll watch it. He hates everything. Is there something that you like?
I like you.
Okay, thank you.
I see very little proof of that.
Checkmate. Bishop to
I
rook 9,
don't.
Dan.
I don't.
No
know.
one has done more for Tony's ego than Tony, but second is me. Here, I would say.
Just got in from a sports charter flight. Oh my God. As I'm sure you're familiar with.
Jesus.
Look at me, Louie.
Sit next to Mike since Greg is in. That first sentence was completely irrelevant.
But totally necessary. I mean, you just have to let people know.
I was just on a charter.
Yeah.
Sports charter.
A sports
charter.
charter flight.
Yeah.
The hell is that?
It's a
What does he
charter
mean?
flight for sports.
Is he flying with Inter Miami? What does that mean exactly?
Yes,
Yes.
that's what it means.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
If you watched FS1's pregame coverage, you would have had a nice camera shot of a gentleman, an Englishman, trying to find his way in South Florida, and also Phil Neville, Inter Miami's manager.
It's an inside joke.
Okay. Neville, by the way, may have cost them that game, in my opinion.
They lost 3-0.
I know. Neville infiltrated the team with bad vibes going into that game because he spent the whole week complaining about where are we going to play. Nobody knows our we can't tell our supporters. You know, it's just.
You're right. Stop worrying about that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was,
you'll play him in a parking lot
right.
if you have to.
I don't want to hear my head coach of any team complaining about where we're playing or, being the logistics being discombobulated.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, can you play for us the sound that Stugotz wanted yesterday? Mike Francesa is podcasting now. He retired with much fanfare, but it is very difficult once you've gotten the cotton candy intoxicants of speaking into these microphones to just retire and not want your sports opinions heard somewhere. So Mike Francesa had some very strong opinions and poisonous opinions that he directed toward, baseball poet Bob Costas.
Costas, who will not be quiet no matter what. Listen, Costas has just, I don't know, he thinks that, I guess every word is golden because he just will not shut up. Everything's a history lesson. We don't need a history lesson every 2 seconds. Okay? Everybody's a Yankee fan. They have Yankee history. They understand Yankee history. They know it backwards and forwards. This is not a history class. It's a baseball game. Be quiet. Do the game. He's driving everybody crazy. He must have said 1,000 times, the Yankee home runs. We know the Yankees have doubled their home runs this year. We know the Indians hit 127 homers and the Yankees hit 254. We know that. Everybody knows it. Make the point once, not 4,000 times.
Classic Pope.
Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, with very little self-awareness, always telling everyone else to shut up and be quiet.
Yeah, the loudest people in sports media telling others to shut up.
Yeah, but they're talk show hosts, and they need to fill time. Costas, you need to let a baseball game breathe once in a while, man. Like, stop teaching me about the game. Stop preaching to me about all the agendas you have, and you want to get out there and share it with the entire audience. Just let the game sit occasionally. He talks too much. It's okay to criticize Bob Costas. He's a great play-by-play guy. He might be one of the great titans in this industry, in the history of this industry. But do me a favor. I'm with Francesa. Zip it up. Enough.
Yeah, no, it's your move, too, to tell others to shut up while you're consistently talking. They did a 6.5-hour daily talk show every day.
Right.
Mad Dog and Francesa.
You can't stop talking.
6.5 hours. People think we make too much. They, every day, were doing 6.5 hours, and they're telling everyone else to shut up.
About as long as a baseball game.
There's plenty of time to fill in a baseball game that Costas has to talk during.
Yeah, but people were going to Mad Dog and they were going to Francesa to listen to Mad Dog on Francesa. We're not going to playoff games to listen to Bob Costas lecture us about whatever it is that he wants to lecture us about now.
Although I had this argument with Whittingham, who told me he will stay with a baseball game because Bob Costas is calling the baseball
he's
game.
a nerd.
He's unusual that way.
No.
I agree with him. I mean, but let's not put Costas in the same category as Vin Scully. Vin Scully was beloved by everybody.
Yes.
Bob Costas does rub some people the wrong way for the reasons we've been mentioning.
Well, they're different broadcasts. Vin Scully has to be your
good.
eyes on radio.
Vin Scully's house is for sale, by the way. If you go to TMZ, Vin Scully Gave off this humble, down-to-earth kind of guy. $15 million LA mansion, which is insane.
I mean,
it's
Billy,
like
he
a
probably bought it
resort.
70 years ago.
Yeah.
It is a resort. You need to look at Vin Scully's mansion on TMZ, and if you have $15 million, go buy it.
I'm calling bullshit on Chris Whittingham, by the way. I'm going to probably call out the chickens, too.
Wow.
He's the guy that's like, I will not stay at a game because of the broadcasters, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, I don't care, all this stuff. And then, now he's going to stay on baseball for Bob Costas.
He
Give me
does
a
say
break.
that. He says he'll stay
likes
2
Bob.
extra innings with Costas because of how good he is at the polish of a broadcast.
That's just politics of the job. You know what I mean? He's just kissing the rings of Bob Costas so he can weasel his way up to maybe call a World Series game one day. If he had the opportunity to get away in a purge-like situation to murder 3 broadcasters to advance his career, Bob Costas would be one of them. I guarantee you that right now.
Jim Gray would be another.
No,
for
he
sure.
wouldn't. He told us that he doesn't want his career. This
doesn't like Jim
situation,
Gray.
this is a purge where Chris Whittingham is murdering. I know, out of character, murdering people and getting away with it professionally to advance his career.
Oh, okay.
And I think Bob Costas is one of them.
Who's the lead voice of soccer, Mike? Is there a lead
Of
voice?
soccer?
Yeah.
All right, great talk.
I was with you, Tony, on Vin
was
Scully
it?
probably bought the house in the 30s, and now that's why. No.
Are you seeing it?
That's
Yeah,
a
I'm
modern
looking at
house.
it right now.
Yeah.
This is
it's a modern
look,
house.
Man, it's got a tennis court. It's got a putting green.
He could have remodeled.
He bought it in 2009 for $12.4 million.
Why are you denying Vin
Hold on.
Scully his riches?
Hold on, straight cash, homie.
That's how
Ain't no
Vin rolls.
mortgages around here,
Yep.
baby.
Yep.
Vin Scully went into a room, grabbed that cash, and said, I want a tennis court and I want a putt-putt.
Here's a
Lagoon
question.
there, it looks like.
Okay, so Vin Scully, how old was Vin when he left us?
90s.
Almost
in his
100,
90s.
wasn't he?
So like he bought this 10 years ago, like an 80-something-year-old Vin Scully's like, I need all of this.
Gotta
Like,
have it.
You know what he didn't need? A wedding.
You know he has a name for the house?
What's it called?
Had.
Home plates.
Oh,
Had.
Oh, I love that.
Home plate.
I love
God.
that.
I mean, that's classic Vin Scully right
Awful.
there.
He also has an island, if you look at it in his kitchen, that the corners appear to be the shape. Like one of them appears to be the shape of home plate, and I'm wondering if the others are all bases or if it's just a coincidence. Now I'm starting to think it's not a coincidence. Are you saying he wasn't married?
How about this foyer?
I mean, Vin had some good taste.
This is a very classy house, guys. Let me tell you right now. This is a beautiful house. Billy, I'm not saying he wasn't married. I'm saying he didn't feel the need to go out there and in his 80s, like, I got to shake it up. You know what he did in his 80s? He went and bought a house cash.
That
That's
was
what
a
he did to shake it up.
callback to Amin's opinion from yesterday on Bob Kraft. Why would you get married, Bob Kraft?
Yeah, this is you're right. This is amazing. No,
Take
but
us on a tour.
now. Oh, okay. So
I mean, the study. Have you seen the study?
The study is beautiful. It's oak wood. You've got bookcases. You got a desk. You've got nice leather upholstered furniture in here. If you want to have some people come in and have some cognac, maybe some port, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
The dining room. I'm gonna give a thumbs down to the dining room.
What?
It's a
What's
little
wrong
pink.
with it?
Yeah, a little
The
pink.
walls are red. The seats are pink.
I love
Thumbs
red walls.
down.
Yeah,
he,
thumbs
he
down.
tried to throw some color and flash in there, and Amin's not having it.
Red
I
walls.
don't even like the flooring. The flooring is kind of dated as well.
Some spice and flavor from Vin Scully, rejected by interior designer Amin El Hassan.
Now the theater, you bring me back. The theater takes me. What's unnecessary?
He doesn't need a theater
Of
in his
course he needs a
house.
theater.
It has like
Well, he
80,
doesn't now.
80 seats.
He can't be seen in a real theater. He's Vin Scully.
He's Vin Scully. I want to watch a movie. I don't want to get bothered by all these people.
Exactly.
I come in. By the way, Greg, you'd love the theater because it's decorated like the old movie houses of your childhood. You know,
Gotcha, yeah.
There's a Humphrey Bogart picture on the screen.
There's a
right
popcorn
here.
machine, right?
He also,
it's gotta
I
be.
can't. It's probably on the other side of the camera. He also has a phone, like an office
A
phone,
landline.
like a landline phone, but like an office phone with like
Vin
7
Scully
lines
has
with
to
it.
have a landline.
It's a hotline. It's a red phone.
Tony, you'll back me up on this. Way too many remote controls. Too many remote
You
controls.
gotta get one.
That's 5
change
remote
He needs
controls.
a
Some
smart.
months.
He needs a
Too
smart setup. Is what he needs. All of it on one remote.
Now the kitchen is a bold choice with the flooring. It's got that
Mix. It's mixed marble and wood at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, it's oak wood. That's what it is.
it's got piping, like almost like you got a slab of marble and then you have some wood piping around it.
Given that
But it
Stugotz
matches the
has
ceiling.
already given up on all forms of learning, doesn't want Bob Costas learning, doesn't want to learn apps, doesn't want to learn how to get things. How many remotes do you think Stugotz is going to have in his 90s? Because he stopped learning now. He's already said, look, this is good. This is my line. Who I am right now is who I'm going to be. I don't have any use for new information. I don't have any new use for evolution.
You had me making it to 90. I mean,
well, whatever the age is, I'm trying to see how poorly this is going to deteriorate. When Vin Scully was at an age where he's like, you know what? I need the 5 remotes. You give me one, that's life moving too fast on technology. I was broadcasting wartime baseball games, and I don't need one remote. The remote itself is enough of an evolution. I remember back when we didn't have televisions of any kind.
Right.
That's true. Like he remembers when the TV first was rolled out there. Literally on wheels because it was too heavy for anyone to pick up.
Is there anything else in the house worth noticing? Worth the details for $15 million? Is it a bargain?
First of all, the island that Billy was referring to in the kitchen, it's an island. Like it's not like a kitchen. It is.
You can live on
like
it.
Maui.
It's like 20
Yeah,
feet.
Like
you
a
need to
palm
take
tree
a
on
boat to get to it. Like it's massive. Did you see his wine cellar?
The
yet?
wine cellar.
yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's the bedroom, master bedroom, very classy. Opens up to a balcony overlooking Hidden Hills. What, you don't like it?
Baby.
I mean, I'm looking at this bed setup.
No,
and
no,
I'm
no.
wondering,
That's a side. That's the side
okay.
house.
This
Yeah,
is
the-
like okay.
yeah,
'cause I was seeing this
that's
bed
not
setup. I'm like, what has Vin
that's
got
not
going
it.
on
No,
here?
Getting
That's
it
not
done
it.
in the bed
No,
wall.
no,
Okay,
Billy's
no.
looking at like
not too
guest
big.
bedroom.
This is where the
Sheet
magic
C or
happens
whatever.
for Vin. You know what I
Damn
mean?
right.
Like, look at these bars
Oh
and stuff.
yeah, I mean,
Mirror.
it is-
Any
it-
mirrors
what?
on the ceiling?
No.
Just asking. No judgment.
What mirrors on the ceiling is that's a
It
very
used to be a thing.
it's a 20 CB thing, like along with water beds.
Water beds,
Like
right.
someone thought, like, oh, this will enhance it, and it doesn't.
Oh my God.
Greg, you had one on the ceiling, right?
I never have, but my neighbor used to, and I'd visit him once in a while, and it'd be like cringeworthy.
What?
Why were you in his bedroom?
Come again?
He was a good friend of mine, and I was at his house a lot, and you know,
And eventually they started fucking.
I mean, normal.
Got a couple of very exciting things to get to. A new and fresh Back in My Day is here. Greg
Nice.
Cote has put forth an extra effort, and we will get a Back in My Day within 20 minutes here. Roger Bennett, who is good on all subjects, but especially soccer and beyond, I would say, with him. He's going to join us at the end of this hour. Billy's got something for Charles Barkley. We'll get to that in just a second.
No, Turner's got something for Charles Barkley.
A lot of money.
Well,
Yeah.
Turner's got
There
money.
was a lot of talk from Charles Barkley over the last few years, and then someone dropped the bag, and that talk stopped.
Well, he
The
does
big
this
bag,
all-
though.
Or maybe
man.
that talk continues for
It's a
10 more
heavy
years.
bag, Mike.
He does this all the time, though, right? Charles always does, though. I think I'm going to do this for another year or so, and then I'm going to call it quits. And then they back up a Brinks truck, and he says, I think I'm going to take a couple more years.
This was as adamant as I had heard him, though, on the subject of I'm retiring when I get to 60.
I feel bad. I feel bad for you, Dan. That's what I was thinking yesterday, to be honest with you. When I saw the news come out, I go, poor Dan, man. Like, his friends are just constantly tricking him. He's here. He's talking about Charles. He's defending him at all turns. He's like, no, Charles wants to retire. He says he's 60. He's going to retire. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He's going to retire. Draymond's going to come in. He's going to take over. It's going to be this whole thing. No, he's serious. Like, he wants to live life. He wants to be happy. And we're like, nah, Dan, he just wants more money. Like,
I thought
what's
we had a
going
Metal
on?
Arc deal. I thought he was coming over to us after 60. I did. Damn.
Yeah, but then Liv stepped in, and then the
They
the numbers
fouled it all out.
changed
Game
completely.
They did.
Yeah.
They
The math
fouled, they
changed.
fouled
Yeah.
everything.
Much better
I mean,
stalking
gets it.
horse than Metal Arc Media. Live.
10 years, how much? We don't, probably more, right? He's making $10 million a year, he says, in salary and $10 million a year in endorsement.
It's reported that it's a $100 million deal, but people are saying that it could be as much as $200 million.
Yeah, I
and
think-
Charles can retire whenever he wants.
I think the report was north of 100 million, speculated between 100 and 200 million. And Charles, I believe, if I saw correctly, had a nice little thing put in there where if Turner and TNT lose the NBA, like, he can go wherever he wants streaming wise to go and
Savvy.
get the money otherwise.
That's very
What did I
savvy.
say?
What are you
It
saying?
was super savvy. And also the reports of anywhere between 100 million and 200 million. It's just your standard $100 million variance.
Barkley, by the way, went to Greg Norman just to gin up a fake live offer to increase his market value.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, people are saying that.
You guys feel what's probably coming, right? Is like an inside the NBA locker room schism. We talked about this on an upcoming Stupidity that's coming up. I think this is going to get fouled up because I think that Shaq, who doesn't need the money, is going to be upset.
Shaq knows what everyone makes. Shaq went through and gave everyone salaries. He's very well aware of what Kenny makes, what Ernie makes, and what he makes. And Charles just got them all a pay raise. A really unusual career. I know I use unprecedented a lot, but God almighty, Charles's career to be able to do that into his 70s, to be contractually
incredible
relevant as a broadcaster when you're approaching 70 years old, because everyone knows you're the linchpin to that show, ESPN, and everyone else is chasing that show when it comes to winning Emmys and groundbreaking television and fun on television.
I mean, he's the greatest studio analyst, I think, of all time. He might be better at television than he was at basketball, which is incredible.
And what's amazing about it is the analysis often stinks.
Yeah, who cares, though? It's entertaining. It's funny.
The playtime does not. Like, he got the whole sport changed under his nose, and he was still yelling about jump shooting teams not winning championships as everything, as he and Shaq are still trying to dump the ball into the post.
It's funny because, with all these exorbitant broadcaster deals that we've seen over the last 2 years or so, this is the first time where I'm like, sounds about worth it, maybe a little bit under. This is the first time where I'm like, yeah, I see the value. I don't see the value of paying Tom Brady for whenever he retires. We don't know if he's going to be good. I don't see the value of paying Mike Greenberg or Stephen A. Smith or some of these other guys. Like, Charles Barkley is the first time I'm like, 10 sounds like a good deal. They locked in at a low rate.
That's my only late night talk show that I watch now. It's supplanted The Tonight Show for me. I enjoy that late night show. I actually watch it with the sound on, which is the highest compliment I can give anything, because there are so many basketball players that I just flatly don't know how to pronounce their names because they just exist in apps and muted televisions for me.
Oh, I thought you said because you learned the pronunciations from Charles Barkley.
Right. It's true. That's how Anthony Simons becomes Simmons.
Dan, I want to ask you something. You said everyone's going to get a pay raise because Charles just raised the bar over there. My question is, what do you think this means for Lefko? Can we call Lefko and ask him what this means for him?
Lefko would be low on the list, given that he's new to the game. He would be low. Dwayne Wade just left. I was
bummed about that.
They replaced him with Jamal Crawford.
Seems like he's left out. Go.
I thought.
What?
No. You got robbed.
Thank you.
Robbed. Please.
You were saying, Mike?
Well, they had. I thought they had something really nice on Tuesday nights. I would occasionally watch that with the sound on, and that seemed like, okay, this is the team in waiting, and I think Adam does a fantastic job. I know I'm a Heat homer, but I thought Dwayne was good on TV and improving, so I was kind of bummed to see him leave.
I want to ask the audience and you guys this, as Ballmer, not surprisingly, is first to market on I'm going to make these regional TV dollars evolve. Have you seen what he's doing with ClipperVision? Have you heard what ClipperVision is going to try to do for $199 a year? They are going to have not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 live streams surrounding Clipper basketball, Paul Pierce, Baron Davis, Jamal Crawford. They are spending on, he doesn't want to share this. When you ask about TNT and how long they're going to have this in the future, the NBA is going to realize in the evolution of this, just like the NFL network did with its network, wait a minute. Why are we allowing everyone else, our broadcast partners, to grab all the dollars? I want the dollars. I'm Ballmer. I'm going to make my own things. I'm going to get my own ex-players. I'm going to make it a regional broadcast. I'm going to go hyper-local. I even forgot that Paul Pierce played for the Clippers. I'm like, why is Paul Pierce rejuvenating his career on ClipperVision with live streams? And it's because Ballmer's saying, I'm not going to I want to make this money. If we're going to do the streaming dollars, let me saturate the market with expenses. Let me make all the other owners hate me more than they already do because I've got more money than everybody.
Well, he's avoiding. I mean, this is to replace your local TV, pretty much, right? This is so that you don't have to do a deal with Prime Ticket or whatever the local station is. It's aggressive because, again, it's kind of like with the NFL. You said the NFL doing the NFL Network. I liken it more to the NFL saying we're doing our Thursday night games on Amazon Prime because you're trying to teach an audience, a segment of the population that, like Stugotz, who are accustomed to getting their games on my TV on this channel. Now all of a sudden you got to go into an app and you got to search for stuff, and it's not the traditional way, but it is the way of the future. And Ballmer's just saying, guess what? The future is now.
Sounds like a trend waiting to explode, right?
It's already bubbling.
Yeah, I mean, if your other NBA teams, though, looking at this, it's like, wow.
But look at where he's starting. He's starting with 6. He's saying he's throwing investments.
It's a bit too much, though.
Well,
right?
he's throwing investments at 6 and seeing if one stands out. You say if you try with one and fail with one, you've tried and failed. You're trying with 6. He's got all the money in the world, and one hit. You're just increasing your probabilities. You need one to be popular. Amazon's got 70 of these. They're doing Dude Perfect and everything else because why? They've got all the money in the world, and you end up not getting to pay any taxes when you just keep reinvesting your money again and again. That's why Amazon and Netflix pay so little. Amazon pays $0 in taxes.
When I mentioned it was bubbling, MLS have done away with local broadcasts. Part of the Apple deal is there's no more regional broadcasts. It was actually a sad day at the close of the season because a lot of legacy broadcast teams that have been the only voices broadcasting soccer to specific regions had to say goodbye and sign off because that is gone by the wayside with MLS. And now it looks like in the NBA, there's a team-by-team approach as opposed to league-wide. It's curious to see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm. So the Manning cast got a lot of people's attention.
Right.
I've got the 6 different streams here that they'll, what they are, right? You got
all right.
The traditional Clipper broadcast. This is live game streams from Bally Sports SoCal and KTLA featuring traditional on-air talent and graphics. This is I'm
every
just
game?
watching the game.
Every game.
70 games.
70 games, okay.
Right? Then you've got Baller Vision.
Whoa, wow.
Baller Vision features live commentary from Clipper Nation's biggest and most well-known personalities. That's Jamal Crawford, Baron Davis, Paul Pierce, Quentin Richardson, Matt Barnes, along with guest appearances from Steve Ballmer and celebrity Clipper fans.
Frankie Muniz.
Billy Crystal.
You don't like it, Billy? You just shout, I don't like that?
Yeah, what are the others? Because I have an idea for a 7th.
Okay,
I'd like to pitch.
All right, we've got Court Vision, powered by AWS. Wow. Fan favorite augmented reality streams are back. The Court Vision stream, similar to Shot IQ mode in the Clipper Court Vision beta, will carry over augmented graphics for real-time shot probability and statistics and more.
Nope.
I'm dizzy already.
All right, here we go.
Too much.
Because the Clippers are an international brand. Clipper Vision en Español. The Spanish language stream.
They're not even relevant in their own market.
It's not even a domestic brand.
All right, what about Clipper Vision in Korean?
Whoa.
Right?
That's cool.
And then finally,
it's all cool. Yes.
This one's for Billy. Billy, you said no to all
Is that
this.
the one you're going to be watching, Mike?
No,
Yeah.
This is the one that Billy can't say no to.
Okay.
Court Vision mascot mode.
Wow. I don't know what that means.
The stream
Mascots.
will feature new and enhanced animations, graphics, and special effects added in real time with machine learning and expansion of the similar mode from Clippers Court Vision.
Wait, what does that mean? Machine learning.
Yeah.
Mascot mode.
No,
It's
I
got the
don't-
word mascot in it, Billy.
Yeah, but that seems like mascot mode is here and give us like your social security and we're just taking all your stuff because this is the phone. You know what I would do? You said there was baller vision, right? I don't know what's happening. You said there was baller vision, right?
Yes.
I would do Balmer vision.
I
And
think
it's just a camera on him the entire time. Or
good
you would
idea.
sit him in a studio by himself. Like, don't worry about all the other. Just Balmer vision is what I want to focus on.
Billy, hold on. What we do is we put a GoPro on top of Balmer's head so you
Wow.
can see what he sees.
I
That's
like
a
that.
shaky ass
Yeah.
view.
24/7
That is
screen.
shaky as hell.
You do a split screen where your one side is looking at him and the other side is what he sees.
Be a billionaire for a day where you could just see people bringing him things and
No,
kissing
for
his
70
ass.
games. 70 games.
You can just see
They're
all
an
the
international
employees
brand,
and
Dan.
yes men and yes women come over and just flatter him with compliments.
I would watch that.
But what about watching Ballmer be crazy with enthusiasm? You can't watch him if he's got a GoPro on his
Well,
head.
no,
I
it's
guess
a
you-
split screen. You see
Okay.
half
Yeah,
of
but you're
what
seeing
he
what
sees.
Bomber
exactly
sees.
right.
I
Is
would
he
like
Mike?
mascot vision, actually. I'd like to see it through the prism of a mascot. How about that? Put a GoPro on his head.
Chuck
Or
the
hers.
Condor.
Yeah.
Wait, you just have like a mesh filter then
Through
on
the
the
mesh
screen.
eyes of the condor.
feel the deep unpleasantness of being in a stinky suit alone with your grajo
You what?
in your body odor.
That was like for three
Thank
of
you.
us, yeah. I mean, but like we talked about this, right? The Nuggets mascot gets like $600K. Like, I'd do that.
Did you guys see that?
Would you take the head trauma?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think more.
You guys saw that last night at the end of another sad night of football where the Broncos score 16 points and wonder about the $250 million they're spending at the quarterback position.
Look good for a quarter.
Again with this lat injury. You know, it's near his shoulder. Shut up. My nipple is near my shoulder.
He was 10 of 10 to start the game.
He outplayed Herbert.
He's got a hammy now.
Yeah, now he's got a hamstring injury.
Oh, jeez.
The Chargers need to be investigated for how they've betrayed Justin Herbert with that roster. Because without Keenan Allen, they have the slowest offense in the NFL. Easily. They need to make a trade, get some. How you have that big arm, one of the biggest on the planet, and you don't have a deep threat.
The Packers are going to be in that same trade market. Both of those teams, I don't know when Keenan Allen is supposed to get back, but the Packers, I see all these quotes from Aaron Rodgers. I can guarantee you that the Packers are going to do something there at wide receiver. They're not going to sit the rest of this season having him throw behind the line because they haven't gotten him a deep threat.
I don't believe that the Packers are going to do something because we've had this discussion about the Green Bay Packers for years, and they never do anything. They're like, here's Sammy Watkins. Have fun,
Mike,
Aaron.
these are the worst 6 combined games of Aaron Rodgers' entire career. The last 6 you've seen are the worst 6 statistically.
But Dan, he took most of their money.
Yeah,
like, what are they going to do? Right.
I'm not exonerating him from blame. I'm just telling you that if he's got all their money and they don't want to be behind the Vikings for the next 5 years when he's going into his 40s at quarterback, that I would guess, I would bet a large amount of money on the Packers trading for something. They're not going to just keep drowning in quicksand and lose to the Jets and the Giants because they can't move the football.
They should be desperate. They should be looking for a quick fix. OBJ, anybody at this point.
A DJ Moore might be available. Who knows? But they've always shown you themselves every time. Whenever there are these... remember when OBJ was available last year? They were like, can you help us on special teams? And OBJ went to LA and proved that he had a lot left in the tank prior to that injury.
I got the sense, and I don't know if you guys, Stugotz and Dan, felt the same way, but like when you spoke to Aaron a couple weeks ago, I got the sense that he was just like, yeah, like it just is what it is, right? I'm going to write out my career here because I feel like it's the right thing to do. I have this loyalty. I signed the deal. I got the money and like just kind of accepted the position that the Packers are in.
You just never know the sacrifice that you're making until you're making it. It's hard to watch them. Stugotz just spent a weekend watching his Jets kick their ass up and down the field.
He's not making a sacrifice, though. He's getting paid a lot of money.
How did he not know the sacrifice he was making when every time he was interviewed on this show alone, you were telling him the sacrifices he was making?
Because his ego is such that he believes he'll make anyone good. And how could I argue with him over the course of his career that he'll make anyone good? He's got 18 years of fucking proof that, and no matter who you put around him, they're going to be
Jordy
good.
Nelson
No,
great.
he doesn't.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't have 18 years of proof. He had one Super Bowl where he won it with James Starks and a bunch of injured receivers.
He's the back-to-back MVP.
I understand, but he's always disappointing. He signed back with a team that took away his best freaking weapon. I don't understand what they're doing, what the plan is, and what his expectations were. And right now his passer rating's lower than Bailey Zappi and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Guys, why are we doing this? Why do you guys forget the gems that I give you guys? I told you guys months ago. He does this on purpose so we can all say, poor Aaron Rodgers. If only he had some help. If he had help, then he'd have to live up to those expectations. So you lower the expectations and everyone feels bad for you.
I think it's half and half of he wants to be the guy that makes everybody else great. Like he wants to get Romeo Doubs and turn him into a guy who makes things happen on the outside. He wants to be the reason why Sammy Watkins is good again. Like that's his thing.
But he's done it. He's done it with Jordy Nelson. He's done it with Randall Cobb. He's done it with random guys.
But is that more of the scouting department in Green Bay getting guys that are going to be good projected at the next level?
Let me ask you guys a question, a serious question. It's going to sound ridiculous, but it's a serious question. Up until kind of some of these post-career scandals that he's gone through, would you say that Brett Favre was more beloved by Green Bay fans than Aaron Rodgers?
No.
I mean,
maybe
up until
maybe
now,
he
Rodgers has stayed there. I mean, Favre. I know Favre wanted to stay, and they traded him away because it was time for Aaron.
They both kind of held the team hostage, but remember, Favre ended up going to the hated Vikings at the end of his career,
and hasn't had much of a post career either.
But he's saying before the scandals.
Yeah, I'm taking out penis pics and stealing money from poor people and all that stuff.
Well, then all I have is beloved recovering addict, something about Mary cameo gunslinger. Of course,
well when his father dies is what you have as information.
I have that Monday Night Football game,
it's a funny thing to say. Take out stealing from the poor.
And the dick pic. Yeah.
But,
otherwise.
And yes.
We ended up on Aaron Rodgers, though, but the place that I was headed was the sad state of affairs with Russell Wilson. We're 6 games in, okay? And Trevor Siemian started his Broncos career 5-1. Kyle Orton started his Broncos career 6-0. Tim Tebow started at 3-3. Brock Osweiler started at 4-2. Russ is 2-4. And last night, at the very end of a very sad press conference, where again they score 16 points and tell you the nipple is near the throwing shoulder, he's broken, and he does not say, "Broncos country, let's ride."
Oh no!
It's
no
dead.
hashtag to end his presser.
It's dead. Sad way he did it last time. Somebody told him they were probably making fun of him, that he just sort of did it indifferently. His heart wasn't in it. It was a loss. He's clearly in pain emotionally and physically, and he did it wandering away from the microphone. And last night he just said, "Thanks, guys," and walked off sadly to another week with 16 points scored.
Over under on cute TikTok/Instagram videos posted by Russell Wilson this week.
No, we're going 0 dark 30 mode.
Before the game, though, he will have, there'll be a suit, and he'll tweet out opportunity or some other thing that is far lamer when you're only scoring 16 points a game.
He'll drop a pin on opportunity. Population 0.
In fairness to Russell Wilson, he doesn't have a lot of help in Denver.
What do you mean he doesn't have a lot of help?
What are you talking about?
He's got Cortland Sutton. He's got Jerry Jeudy.
Cortland Sutton?
He had entering the season that offense did nothing with Javonte Williams.
I've never seen. Hold on a second.
Lobos.
I have never seen a reaction to Cortland.
He's furious because his fantasy team. Hold on, we're going to get Mike, get in here on him because he doesn't believe in Sutton and he doesn't think Judy's any good. Neither does Shannon Sharp, by the way. Judy was running around.
I mean, the Shannon Sharp thing is everybody always says Jerry Jeudy, crisp routes, and he would always put these social videos. The Shannon Sharp thing was kind of funny.
He had better wide receivers in Seattle. I mean, look what Geno's doing with him. Yeah.
Hey, Geno's like the best unknown quarterback in the league.
If only someone on this show told you guys about Geno Smith, huh?
What do you guys?
Are you doing I told you so all day? I'm proud of you.
It's a good day for
I'm going to go back and see. Let me see.
What are you going to go back and see? Let me see. That's not useful to me on a live broadcast when we're...
Yeah, I'm going to check. I got my Tony's top 5 here. I'm trying to figure out what
This is why I write them down.
Yeah.
Just miss Cortland Sutton. He was a 1,000-yard receiver.
Week 4. What week are we in, guys?
Please.
Oh, we're in week 7.
Week 4 what?
Week 4, Tony's top 5. Number 1, they wrote Geno off. He didn't write back.
Yeah.
I told you guys in week 4.
I wrote it down. I wrote it down. Yeah.
I told you for week 1. I said 3,000 yards.
I don't want to do I told you so.
Touchdowns.
That's on 5:30 ESPN every day on
one.
PTI. The I told you so.
I don't
show.
want to derail, but what was the other half of the Aaron Rodgers thing? Because you said it was half and half, and you only gave one side.
The money.
Well, it's what I was saying is that Aaron wants to be the guy that makes people great, and what Amin was saying is that he wants to make it difficult for himself. That's where it's half and half.
He wants the built-in excuse of, "Oh man, what was I supposed to do? They gave me nothing."
But then when he does it with those guys, he's like, "Oh yes."
But who's right on the argument between Tony and Mike and Greg Cote about the Broncos' skill position guys?
Cortland Sutton had 1,000 yards receiving with Joe Flacco and Drew Lock and Brandon Allen at quarterback.
Yeah, where's he been this year? Where was he last night?
Who's his quarterback this year? You're out here
Judy's
carrying water
injured.
for Russell Wilson. What has Russell Wilson shown you this year?
The Lobos needed 9 points out of Courtney.
There it is.
We knew it. How about enter the game at some point, Sutton?
It is time now for a weekly update on our favorite team, Rex Lobos. Here is their head coach and president of football operations, Greg Cote.
All right. Okay.
Cortland Sutton, where are you?
The Cortland Sutton is in trouble on the Lobos roster. I'm going to announce that right now.
Cortland sucking.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't have an announcement to make at this juncture, but Cortland Sutton is on the trading block. We're going to announce that right now.
Unbelievable.
We lost. The Lobos fell 106 to 100. Why? A couple of reasons. Number 1, the Lobos inadvertently started tight end Dallas Schultz, who was out of the game, That's on me.
Oh,
that's
the
on the
worst.
coaching.
Right.
It was a late pickup, but Cortland Sutton, 3 points, disappeared. Cortland Sutton had 3 more points in fantasy than I did last night. I was 2,000 miles away in my living room. Actually, I was in my garage drinking beer. The good news, though, hey, we got 24 points out of T-Law, Trevor Lawrence. We got L-Jack coming through again, a little 15 points. Come on, need you to pick it up. Dalvin Cook got 14 thanks to that one long run against the Dolphins. I was the only one cheering in the press box. But the Lobos are 3-3 right now. We got to accentuate the positive. We're tied for 4th place in a 10-team league. We're still on playoff pace. Don't give up on the Lobos like they're giving up on Cortland Sutton. The Lobos will be back, Jack, and you can put that in the bank. That's been your Lobos update, not sponsored by anybody.
Roger, why are you muttering under your breath calf muscle injury? Is this the
Soccer analysis?
The silent spaces in your life, are they always filled with you muttering to yourself some version of calf muscle injury while whistling and looking things up?
Do you not wish curses on your enemies, Dan?
I do not wish curses on my enemy. Is that what you were doing? You were wishing?
I was just wishing some bastard a calf muscle injury. Not a bad injury, but just one that wouldn't know. There's a Liverpool football player is out for the World Cup with a calf muscle injury. It's nothing that dramatic. Ronaldo wins again. Oh, my Lord. It's Mike Ditka's birthday, talking about complete and utter bastards who are idolised. That's amazing. Who knew that? How you doing, Dan? You gorgeous man, and your whole crew.
It is nice. It is nice to see you. It is always exciting to see you. What we should wish Mike Ditka a happy birthday here at some point. I don't know what age he is. He's got to be approaching. He's got to be in his 80s, right, Stugotz?
I would say, yeah, probably late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
We will wish him a happy birthday in a moment with the Stephen A. Smith professionalism that we celebrate the biggest things. Oh, look at Roger.
Looking at fucking pulling out the big guns.
Look at Roger. Yes, you've got a picture of Mike Ditka in his championship Bears glory in the 80s with a middle finger. Yes, very nice. You love yourself.
Behind my desk.
You love yourself some. What else is behind your desk there? Take us on a little bit of a tour here.
He's the only racist. He is the only out racist that I have behind my fucking desk. Everybody else is actually an okay human being.
He's 82, Mike Ditka. I'm wondering, do you think Mike Ditka would have made a great soccer coach, like a soccer manager?
Well, funny enough, Bruce Arena, who is considered our most legendary manager ever, he's really a lacrosse coach. So I think
there's a movie where he does that.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, guys, cradle that motherfucker. We're not on air yet, are we? I don't know. I think a lot of those coaches would have been incredible. Mike Ditka essentially ruled with fear. He was what they call a chemo coach, right? Where he just blasts everybody and just keeps on blasting. It would have been a fantastic European. Would have been a middling. Probably ended up somewhere in the Italian leagues, just eating a lot of pasta, drinking a lot of wine, spreading hate throughout northern Italy. Would have been fantastic.
Was that the Will Ferrell movie where they argued about juice boxes and stuff?
Kicking and screaming, yeah.
Okay, so that's...
Did Will Ferrell make a movie about hate in northern Italy? That's amazing. Oh my God, Ferrell, bringing it. We're not on yet, are we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
you know him
Amazing.
from Men in Blazers. You know him as well from just anything soccer related. And Mike Ryan he wants Berhalter out of here. It's an age-old tradition of firing the manager. What do you have to say, Mike? I haven't even heard your opinion on this. I just know you want a firing.
I mean, I just never really saw the fit. We're trying this really ambitious attacking scheme that was designed to dominate CONCACAF and go toe-to-toe with beautiful European footballing countries, and that's just never been the successful American style. You don't have your players in camp long enough to play this style. And on top of that, Greg Berhalter's selections when it comes to team building have always been kind of puzzling because he's married to his style. I guess I grew up in an era where the U.S. was at its best as a organized defensive counterattacking unit, taking advantage of these great athletes that we had on the pitch, and I think that's where we're most successful. And I would be in on Berhalter if I was on board at least with knowing that he would select the best players. And I don't have evidence of that. Now it's a little too late in the game. The World Cup's a month away, even though proper footballing nations would have no trouble sacking somebody right before. It's not that complicated of a game. But here we are, and I'm not too bullish on their chances in the World Cup. I'm curious where Roger stands on Greg Berhalter.
Oh, it's a joy to be back. We are going in deep. And I love that you said the US was at its prime when it played physical football. Obviously, I didn't know you grew up in the 1930s when we came. We reached the semi-final of the first World Cup with a side so physical that they were called the shot putters. And I do think we should probably revert back to that caliber of football as it got us results. And we don't sing enough about getting into the semi-finals in this nation. We are a proper footballing nation. And I think part of the problem is that we're self-loathing still as a soccer nation. We need to prove ourselves to ourselves. And as you're saying, we don't just want to win. International football, it's like an all-star game. Like you watch the all-star games, the teams are flung together. They can kind of do bits, but they're not cohesive. And any team that plays together a full NBA season would destroy an all-star team because they have chemistry, they have an understanding. International teams are essentially glorified all-star teams, and the football is filled with mistakes and fleeting and about making moments matter, not score. I mean, England got to the semi-final by preventing goals from being scored on them, scoring from set pieces, and having like a Brad Stevens set of routines off throw-ins. That got us all the way to the bloody semi-final. No one there was like, but you must pass and move and create beauty, transcendent football. But because we feel lesser, because we feel a sense of self-loathing, because generations of football fans, soccer fans grew up in this country being put on pegs in locker rooms by jock bastards, we feel we must roar, we must sing, we must play the most transcendent football. And that's what the US have tried to do. And it's a massive mistake. It's naive. No team, apart from Barcelona, who were just like, it's like saying, I'd like to play the kind of I'd like England national basketball team to play like the Lakers dynasty. Okay, guys, just because I would like to be a supermodel. Look at me, doesn't make it. So we should just go with what we've got and enjoy ourselves. And it's a bit of a time of wonder. We have so many young talents, these baby eagles, these young gents who are plying their trade in Europe at the highest levels. But we also have a very young coach who's not always clear he knows what he doesn't know. And here we are. We go again into the fire festival of a World Cup in Qatar.
Well, here's Eric Winalda. Let you tell me whether you agree with what's being said here.
I can tell you what
at the international level. Your job is not to teach at all. You do not teach anything. That is not your job. Your job is to select the players who are going to make us win. And then you have to look at them, you have to evaluate them, and you have to see what is their skill set? How is this puzzle going to look when it hits the field? And sometimes it's not what you want. It's what the team and the talent of your players dictates.
Oh, Winalda, what a wonderful human being he is.
Sounds like
He's a pioneer, a trailblazer. Just speaks like a biblical prophet, seething with rage, with an intensity that if you look him in the eye, it will burn out your retinas. Managers can do many different things. I once interviewed the great Arsenal manager, Arsene Wenger, and the managers have to do 87 things. They have to be comms specialists, man managers, psychotherapists, stats specialists, global diplomats. I mean, there's millions of things they need to do, and no one can do them all. I asked Wenger what the most important role of a manager is, and he said, an educator. I want my players to leave as better human beings after being with me than before. So, who am I to argue with Arsene Wenger on what a manager actually does? The argument with this gentleman is he's got a style, a system, and he's going to play it. We have bloody great players in Europe who are scoring dozens of goals at the elite level, and he won't call them in, and no one can quite work out why. And he says they don't fit my system, which is really a noose around it. If he doesn't do well, that will be like the Titanic captain saying, "This ship, nothing can bring it down." But World Cups are their own ecosystems. This World Cup, more than any other, because it's going to be played under such insane, ridiculous, self-sabotaging conditions. Anything can happen, and history is written by results. If this gentleman gets great results, we will see him as a genius. If he goes 3 and out and craps the bed with the nation looking, he will be seen as a, emperor has no clothes, like me, a bald bastard. So let's savor it. Most importantly, a World Cup is about making memories. What is sports about, if not about the collective making of memories and the joy of the whole thing together? This is an insane World Cup. FIFA, for reasons that I'd say I don't understand, but I do. It's to do with brazen corruption. Bags of cash being backed up to FIFA headquarters have decided to give it to Qatar, which is an area the size of smaller than Connecticut, a population smaller than Greater Las Vegas, and they are going to host a global tournament. One of the stadia has been built in a city that didn't exist when they won the bid. Anything can happen. Some of it wonderful. A lot of the surrounding geopolitical stuff is dark as hell. And I think this World Cup is going to be about trying to make great memories where we can, Dan.
I want to talk to you about some of the things going on in Qatar, but you mentioned insane self-sabotaging conditions. You enumerated them there. Do you have others for the novices who might not know what those insane self-sabotaging conditions are?
Yeah, I mean, sports is so joyous. Sports is so glorious. Sports, we look to it to, the chaos and darkness of the world to get away from all of that. But you look at the business of sports, you hold up that rock, the live golf. You look at like F1 doing races in, Abu Dhabi and wherever, all this sports washing where these nations in the Gulf who have deep political challenges, geopolitical challenges, and what would be known by the rest of the world, and almost human rights abuses cover them over by what do we think of Qatar? Do we think of it as a place where 6,500 workers have lost their lives as the nation prepares itself to host a World Cup under the most appalling conditions, or do we think about it as Lionel Messi beating 5 players on the dribble and then slapping home from 45 yards? They use sports. It's why they've brought Paris Saint-Germain Qatar, why Abu Dhabi has brought Manchester City, why Live Golf is being invested in the most wonderful / ridiculous, surreal way by Saudi Arabia. It's using sports, the theatre of dreams and emotions, as a platform to almost rebrand themselves. And Qatar was a not known at all until 40 years ago when oil money, skyscrapers. It became almost overnight one of the most rich per head, per citizen nations in the world. And they wanted this World Cup as a crown jewel to turn the world's attention to it. So it's a surreal reality. LGBTQ rights activists have been loud about how it's still illegal to be out and proud and gay. And there's been hurried legislation to try and encourage gay fans, but they're not to show gay pride flags in stadiums. They'll be arrested for that. The human rights monitors have told us 6,500 foreign workers have lost their lives building the roads, the hotels, the light rail, the stadia. This is a World Cup soaked in blood. John Oliver comes on our show a lot. He and I share a sense of football. I live my life by World Cups. They're every 4 years. My spine of my life, some of my greatest memories are from World Cups, cycle to cycle. And how do we watch this bloody thing, knowing that it's so morally abhorrent? I've done a podcast with episode 2 released on Saturday called World Corrupt with my friend Tommy Vitor from Pod Save the World. And what it forces you to do as a fan is to take sports, which I think unites all of us. We're all just laughing. Today's Mike Ditka's birthday. What a wonderful set of memories flood back when you know that. He's only 82. Hate keeps you incredibly young, America. The memories that come back through sport are deeply, deeply profound. But what this has done, FIFA, who are meant to safeguard the soccer, they're meant to be the check, the gatekeeper and the decision maker. By giving this to Qatar, they've fused it with deeply complicated geopolitical issues. And so those questions are, why would FIFA give it to Qatar? Why would Qatar want this bloody thing in the first place when they're so ill-equipped to run it? And then, Dan, what do we do as fans and also as players? The players will have the spotlight on them. All the players of the world. Denmark are going to wear a special jersey that makes it clear that they're there to play football, but in Qatar under protest. What are the different players going to do? The English team are going to wear, they spent 8 months saying this is hard. We're thinking this through. We want it to be more than a T-shirt. And their solution was a special armband, literally less than a T-shirt. They didn't know what the hell to do. The United States has still been silent. They've got to work out exactly what they're going to do. Please God, they will do something with that spotlight on, which will make us proud. But Dan, I came to sports for sports. So this Will Corrupt podcast is trying to work out the geopolitical layering. It's bloody hard, right?
Let's do this because I want to keep talking about this, but we got to wish Mike Ditka a happy 82nd birthday in our way.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Stugotz also has a top 5 list he's been waiting forever to get to. Thank you for doing it. Top 5 coaches who coached through fear.
Yes.
Number 5, Stugotz.
It's named after Mike Ditka, by the way.
The Mike Ditka Memorial,
Yes.
even though he's not dead.
He has naming rights.
Coached through fear. Number 5.
Number 5, Chuck Noll.
Is it just football coaches or is it all coaches?
It's all football coaches.
Number 4.
Marty Schottenheimer.
Did he? Number 3.
Tom Coughlin.
I don't think of Schottenheimer as that. Number 2.
Bill Cowher.
And number 1.
Bud Grants.
No Parcells there. Roger
Shocking.
Bennett is the best-selling author of Reborn in the USA. He's also co-author of Encyclopedia Blazertanica and now also co-author of Men in Blazers Present Gods of Soccer, the Pantheon of the 100 greatest soccer players, according to us. The guys at Men in Blazers. Look at it. It's right there. But before we promote your book, Roger, the human rights groups, as you mentioned, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Fair Square, now the U.S. Soccer Federation as well, and politicians, all of them are together saying FIFA needs to create a fund and match a $440 million World Cup prize money fund with money for migrants and migrants' families who have had their lives ended and love lost building this thing for an area that's not equipped to build this thing. Is this going to happen?
Isn't that unfathomable, Dan? Isn't that unfathomable? 6,500 are said to have died by human rights monitors since Qatar was awarded the World Cup in 2010, a bid which FIFA's own analysts said was high risk because it was just the stadia, the size of the place, the lack of any preparation. By the way, America were meant to host this bloody World Cup. We were meant to win it. It was already meant to have happened. And we're naively going in there. This is quite funny. We were like, guys, we are ready to host this. We have look at what Kroenke's built in Los Angeles. Where do we host it there? Do we host it in this incredible stadium in Dallas? Have you seen our scoreboards? And FIFA are just like, oh, how can we make corrupt leverage money and kickbacks off stadia that have already been built? You idiots. You don't even know. We interviewed people who were running that bid, who went over with Morgan Freeman, who kind of phoned it in to lead our bid, the great Morgan Freeman. There's a great moment in the podcast where Morgan Freeman is making our bid and he just goes, and America is in love with soccer. I've dropped my page. Hold on. With the world watching. Wasn't Morgan Freeman's fault. It was that we built all our bloody stadia. Qatar was saying, we need to build 8 stadiums from scratch. One of them will be in a city, it's like a draft pick to be named later. A city that we've not yet built will host the bloody. So it's farcical that this place is gonna do it. It's still like the Fire Festival, watching them try and desperately get ready, create a culture of joy and meaning for the arriving hordes who are about to descend in that place of horror. And yes, that is the current predicament, is that FIFA have been challenged to take by the way, it is a ATM that is just spewing out money for FIFA. The World Cup has been compared to an eclipse which strikes the entire world for a full month instantaneously. And that's the last great world platform for brands to communicate to the whole world at the same time. Super Bowls are that big compared to the World Cup, which is ginormous. And yet 6,500 people have lost their lives. That has been demanded of FIFA. And FIFA are kind of hedging. They don't know what to do. And a lot of it will be determined by how the players act when they take the field. In qualifying, a number of teams wore T-shirts that's human rights slogans on them. A lot of the players have talked about racism in a deeply remarkable way. A player for England, Raheem Sterling, has challenged an incredibly racist country where I come from, England, and force them to confront the depths of their own racism as manifested through sport. We have courageous players, deeply intelligent players who have a moment, and what they say in that moment may well determine exactly what occurs, whether this occurs again, because Saudi Arabia want the 2030 World Cup. We are talking, yes, Khashoggi, Saudi Arabia. And I know none of this is why we come to sport. Your listeners must be like, why have you got this raving lunatic on talking about Khashoggi, talking about Saudi Arabia, talking about Mike Ditka, all in the same breath?
Well, not just that, though, but also talking about Morgan Freeman mailing it in. Let's hear that sound.
If you haven't lived in the United States, you haven't seen just how wide and deep Americans' love of football really is. You'd be surprised, maybe even shocked. You would see that in a country that admires individual achievement, we truly cherish what can be done when we come together as a group. And there is no stronger, more resolute supporter. I'm sorry, I missed a page.
And that is why. That's why we didn't win the World Cup. Or did we?
We sent in our big gun. He sounded fluid. He sounded great right up until he revealed to us that he had missed a page. I was hypnotized.
Yeah, I never would have sorry. I missed a page.
When Morgan Freeman said $1 million baby, FIFA was like, yeah, we want the real cash. We don't care about your movie. We don't care about your bloody movie. I'm sorry, I lost the page. I mean, that's an amazing moment in American football history. And in episode 2 of our podcast, Will Corrupt, we talk about that Morgan Freeman journey. He went with Eric Holder, the Attorney General, and his delegation to try and win the World Cup. And in our podcast, we interviewed the spokesperson for the Department of Justice, Matt Miller, whose eyes were open the night before the bid. He said he just sat in the hotel and watched all the voters, 22 of them, go up to the American room, their eyes glaze over as this presentation was given, and then they go to the Qatar room and essentially walk out as if they had just been given generational bags of cash. He called it the most corrupt thing he'd ever seen in his life. And his line was, and I worked in New Jersey politics. Tony Soprano would have rolled in his brain. This is a man who's like saw down global narco groups who like shut down the mafia, but was like, God, FIFA, that is next level black belt and corruption. And that's what we're about to watch.
Your podcast is such a good idea. What is the worst of it? What would you point to as the most appalled you have been with any information you have come by? Like you just revealed. Do you have anything more appalling than what you just talked about? I mean, thousands of deaths to build something that isn't actually needed?
Again, we don't want to hear this. I know a lot of your viewers will be, enough with the deaths, enough with the dying, enough with the killing. We don't even care about the soccer, Dan. But it's almost inconceivable that this is it. And right now, Qatar is trying to crack down. They've announced to the BBC and several of the European journalists where they can film and where they can't film. They will not allow filming to go on in any area that has foreign workers. They don't want any interviews of foreign workers. I mean, essentially, this is not new for football. Football gave Mussolini a World Cup ahead of the Second World War for a propaganda win for Italy. Football gave the Argentinian generals a military victory as their nation under dictatorship was barely hanging on by giving them the 1978 World Cup, where they flung people out of planes so they could clear up dissidents ahead of the world coming to Argentina. We gave the World Cup to Putin in 2018. Vladimir Putin. I went to bloody Moscow and reported back, and like thousands of journalists now realize I was just doing Putin's propaganda for the world. Putin gave the FIFA head, a man called Gianni Infantino. If you've seen a James Bond movie, you've seen him blast off in his rocket ship at the end as his empire is crumbling. He got given a Medal of Friendship by Vladimir Putin at the end of that World Cup, which he will not return. He will not return this thing. And that is where we are. Sports gives us joy. The people that run sports are so bloody craven, so brazen. It's a mirror, Dan. So ultimately sports, and particularly football, I'll say this, and then I'm going to take a deep breath and talk more about Mike Ditka and his birthday. Look at that. What a wonderful arsehole that human being is. The joy of the World Cup, I've always said this, is that when two teams take the field, their nation's histories, their nation's politics, their nation's culture walk out alongside of them. And football, particularly soccer, holds a mirror up to humanity in a way American sports doesn't always, because these are franchises and the players are always moving around. But the World Cup is really just holding up a mirror to the world that surrounds it. And it's pretty horrific. I always thought it was a great thing. In this moment, it's pretty bloody horrific, Dan.
Men in Blazers is a wonderful podcast. His work is all excellent. So I present to you him presenting the gods of soccer, the pantheon of the 100 greatest soccer players, according to the hosts of the popular podcast and TV show Men in Blazers. I'm sure it's going to be excellent. Everything the man does is excellent, and it's going to start a whole lot of fistfights.
I hope so. We picked 100 men and women who have given us joy and meaning, glory, human tenacity, tales of endurance. It's really a book that complements the World Cup. Read it with your kids. Savor the Pelés, the Maradonas, the Alex Morgans, the Mia Hamms, and their stories. But I will say, it's a joy to be with you. You guys bring such joy to the world, such light to the world, such warmth to the world. I've been coming on this show for 4 years now, 5 years. And I'll say that what you bring is such a rarer and rarer currency in our world, and I think we're all better off for having it. So
as do you. All of that. What
he says that to everyone.
What, Billy? Why are you laughing back there? Do you think he says it to everybody?
How many people he says that to when he's kind of signing off.
Roger, you're being accused of lying to sell your book and false flattery.
Sorry, am I on the Tucker Carlson show? That's, was I on last night? I honestly don't say it to anybody because I'm a horrible human being, as you well know, Dan, at this point. And so it's hard for me to say lovely things, but it really is. And I think it's important. I actually think it's important to say it. We don't say it enough. And I do, listening to you, what started off as just warm, joyous, you making yourselves laugh. It's both a wonderful thing and a thing of challenge that in our world, you guys are pumping out a rare currency, and I think we shouldn't take it for granted.
Thank you, Roger.
As are you, Roger.
Kick, save, and a beaut.
Thank you, sir.